All right, here we have a mimer from Likuti Torah, from the Alter Rebbe. There are several mimorim here in this week's Torah portion, Tzav, about Passover. And one of the it's a longer one, so we really won't have time to get our teeth into it very much, because we only have today and tomorrow to learn. But the previous mimer talked about two different types of matzah that the Jewish people ate. Two types. The matzah before midnight and the matzah after midnight. The matzah that was before midnight, that it says you have to watch the matzah so it doesn't become chametz. And that's matzah is written without the letter vav. Mem tzaddik hey. Mem tzaddik taf matzot. Matzot, the word matzot. Sometimes it's just written mem tzaddik taf. And that's talking about the matzah was before midnight, before God revealed himself to them. And matzot sometimes is written matzot with a vav. And that matzah, it says that you don't have to watch it. That matzah is a commandment to eat. So it says that on one place it says that we eat matzah because of the matzah that our fathers ate in Egypt. And the Rebbe says, but that's not so. We were commanded to eat matzah. When we left Egypt, there was a commandment. He says, then matzah, that's the matzah that has the vav in it, matzot. And that's after, because matzah contains inside of it these different levels of godliness, just like we finished learning, right? That matzah is the food of faith. It contains inside of it this amazing blessing of God. It's a commandment of God. It's also wheat, like we said. And it contains in itself power to connect to God. And there it says, the Rebbe has maimon, which says nowadays the matzah that we eat is the matzah that's after, that has the vav in it. In other words, it has this tremendously high revelation of godliness in it that connects us to the creator of the universe, of faith, above understanding. That's what we learned previously. Now we're going to learn this maimon. Ready? Let's go. 6 days you should eat matzot. Ubeyom hashvi, on the seventh day, Atzeret Lashem Elokecha. It says it is a holiday to God. Lo te'aseh malacha, don't do any work. So what is it? In the seventh day of Passover, it's called Shvi Shel Pesach. And it's also like a separate holiday. It's not really a separate holiday. It's part of Pesach. We don't say Shechianu when we make Kiddush. We don't say Shechianu like we do in Shmini Atzeret. It's sort of like a holiday on its own, but it's not really. In a Metzino, we find Sheshloshet Yomim, that these 3 days are called Atzeret. There are 3 holidays which are called Atzeret. One of them is Chag HaShavuot, the holiday of Shavuot. That's when we got the Torah. Atzeret. Atzeret means a day of like stopping, ingathering. Atzor means to stop. There are 3 holidays which are called the holiday of like ingathering, to gather together, to stop and to gather what we've received from previously, the previous days of the holiday. There's first of all holiday of Shavuot, when we got the Torah. That's called Atzeret. Then we have Shmini Atzeret, the 8th day of Sukkot, which is the time of Simchat Torah. And then we have the 7th day of Passover, is also called Atzeret. Here, 6 days you should eat matzah, and Atzeret, right? So the 7th day is an Atzeret. Okay, which is the greatest one of them all? Each one is called the day of stopping. The holiday of Shavuot, when we receive the Torah, the 8th day of Sukkot, and the 7th day of Passover. But Gadol Masha Ne'amar, and it's greater what it says on the 7th day of Passover, more than what it said in all of them. Because here it says the 7th day of Passover was when the sea split. That was when the Jews went over the Yam Suf. Then they were really out of Egypt. Shnei Amar, like it says, Atzeret laHashem Elokecha. It says that it's a stopping day to God, your God. V'lo lochem. It doesn't say Atzeret lochem, like it says on Shavuot and like it says on the Shmini Atzeret. Sheyesh b'hem chetzi laHashem v'chetzi lochem. Because all these other holidays, it says you can devote half of it to God and half of it to yourself. Half of it to God, sitting and learning Torah and praying, and the other half you can eat. But here, the seventh day of Passover says it's totally to God. This is the day that the sea split. And the emphasis should not be on the meal and etc. But Gadola was it says that when the Jews left Egypt, the spoils of the riches that the Jews took from the Egyptian army, it says that the Egyptians were so sure of victory that they put on all of their jewelry and all of their fanciest garments and whatever, and they ornamented their chariots and their horses and everything. They were sure they were going to kill all the Jews and make a big festival. But the fact is that the Jews went over the sea, and the sea drowned them, and then the sea spit them out. And when it spit them out with all these treasures. Well, it says, when the Jews left Egypt, they took tremendous treasures. Each one, it says, came out with, 60 mules laden with jewels and gold and silver. That's when they left Egypt. But it says after they went across the sea and the sea spit out the Egyptians, there was even greater. It says, Gadol haya bizatayam. That's called the spoils of the sea. Shu inyan halat nitzutos. That this is the whole idea of raising up sparks. This is a very deep idea, but it's really worthwhile to lay on it. The Rebbe has a sikh about this also, that God promised Abraham that his offspring would be slaves for 400 years. God shortened it down 190 years, so it was only 210 years. But he said to Abraham, your offspring are going to be slaves, and they're going to work hard and suffer for 400 years, but afterwards they're going to go out with a lot of money. And so the Rebbe said, who in the world would be willing to have all of his relatives, his offspring, suffer and be tortured for 400 years, even for one day, to have a lot of money? Who would be willing to have a weird thing like that? What type of a promise is that to God, from God? So he says, no, the fact of the matter is that Abraham realized that the whole purpose of the Jews is to refine the world. And that the only way that they could refine and reveal godliness in the treasures and the power of Egypt, which is the ultimate evil, to transform that to good, was if they suffered and they took out the money. The money contained in it sparks of meaning. Nitzutzos. So it says, and this holiday, they took the physical and they elevated it more than any of the other holidays because they got the spoils of the sea. And it says even more, Rosh Shivcha Layam. It says that even the most simple maidservant of the Jews, the most simple woman, that she saw on the sea visions that even the greatest prophets, Isaiah, Yechezkel, they didn't see. Kacha Mazoratai, like the Arotov, that says that God took them on his arms, like it says, like a child. When they left Egypt, they left a child that he can't see far away, so therefore his father has to lift him up to see. And that's what God did. He lifted the Jews up out of the whole entire creation so that they could see the essence of God. That's what happened when the sea split. That's the seventh day of Passover. It said, Ad Yavor Hashem, Ad Yavor, 2 times. In the song that the Jews sang when they left, after they crossed over the sea, it says, then we went over, then we went over. Right? He went over, the Jewish people. Then the Jewish people went over, the Jewish people went over. Went over the sea. Why twice? It says because this is talking about now we went over the sea and back then, and we're going to go over again. Just like God lifted the Jews up when they crossed over the Yam Suf, and he showed them the source of all the spiritual worlds, right? The spiritual worlds are like the sea, Shamayim. The heavens, all the spirit, that's like water. Well, God split all the waters. He says, Baku Amayim. He split the water. It says, just like God split all of the spiritual worlds, and there was a revelation of the essence of God, well, it happened once. God took us above, as he'll do it again. It says in the future, and this is going to happen right now. 1 second, I mean, get ready, everybody. We're not learning. This is not science fiction here. This is real reality. God really did take the Jews out of Egypt, and God will really do it again, but in a much greater way. In the future, it says, Heinif Yado al Nahar, God will raise his hand over the sea, over the river, Ba'im Rucho with his power, Ve Hikau with his power, with his wind, Ve with his power, with his wind, yeah, Ve Hikau, and he'll smite the river into seven like paths, 7 tributaries. The Hadrich ben Alaima will go over with our shoes. It says, Basra, and it says afterwards, Odecha Hashem ki anaftabi. And afterwards it says, I am thankful to you, God, because you punished me. I am thankful to you, God, because you punished me. Yashuv abcha v'tchameni. Return your anger and comfort me. In other words, the God is going to split this river. We're going to see the river is the river of understanding. He's going to split it into 7. And then God is going to stop all this punishment, all the torture, like we had all the torture in Egypt, the torture of these 2,000 years of exile, and he'll comfort us. The Lubavitcher Rebbe said that before he was 3 years old, he already had it woven in his mind how God is going to explain all the suffering of the Jews. Because then it says, like the days of going out of Egypt, I will show you miracles, namely, just like the Jewish people went over, when they went out of Egypt, they went over the Yam Suf, the Red Sea, if you want to call it the Reed Sea. And this is called the Yam Suf. Suf means reeds, but it also means the end. This is the lowest of all levels. So it also will be in the future, God will take us over the river, which the river, this is the highest of all levels. Aver Nahar, this is like the source where Abraham came from, the other side of the river. On the other side of the river, our forefathers. Ma'olam, this is the river that comes out from Gan Eden. Yam Suf was the lowest of levels, Sof. But in the future, the river is going to split. The highest of all levels is going to split. This is talking about the river that came out of Eden. Eden is the level of Chachma, pure godliness. Who is a Chacham, a Roas, a Nolad? Who is a wise person that knows all of the future? The Bechin is Ria, namely seeing. And this river that comes out of Eden, this is the level of Bina, understanding. Understanding. The highest levels of understanding possible. This is what we call understanding God. Shmiya, Shema Yisrael, understanding, grasping, contemplating the greatness of God. But in the future, we won't have to contemplate. It'll be revealed to us. The understanding will split. We'll see what the things that we can only understand now. In a Yam Suf, when the Jews went over the Yam Suf, it says that the Yam Suf split into 12 branches, 12 paths. This is the number of the Jewish people, not like it was in the movie with the Charlton Heston, whatever. He went over one big split. It's not so. It's split into 12 paths. It says really there was 12 tunnels, that one for each tribe. You can see, like it says, Gazer Yamsuf Legazarim. The God split the river into branches, into what is it? Into like the breaks. He broke it up into cracks. A lot of paths. Kilo Elam Chazdo. In other words, what does it mean? I thought he just broke it into one big opening, right? That's how it was in the movie. No, it's not so. God split the sea into 12 different paths. We say Gozer Yamsuf Ligzarim, to paths. Kilo Elam Chazdo. Why? Because each and every tribe would have his own path, and he could, each one according to his ability. But in the future, it is written, God will smite. That's the lowest level. And God will smite the highest level, and he'll smite it into 7 tributaries. What does it mean? Because this will correspond to what's called the 7 shepherds of the Jewish people. Avram, Yitzchak, Yaakov, the 3 Avos, and the 4 mothers. There's different ways of counting it. Avram, Yitzchak, Yaakov, Sorah, Rivka, Rachav, Leah. Like it says in another place, etc. Now, in the time of now, this level is not revealed. This on the other side of the river. Abraham revealed it, but to us it's not. But in the future, it will be revealed. That's what the word Hebrew, that's what Hebrew comes from. Ivri. Ivri, that's really our true identity. That's what an Ivri is. Hebrew. Hine Avo Lasid Lavo, but in the future, Ivri. Lasid Lavo, in the future, Kasiv, it is written, Eranu Niflot. It says that God will show us miracles, right? Like we learned in the Mimer from the Rebbe. That God will show us miracles. What it means, we will see, Erenu, we will see these miracles. We'll see godliness permanently. That's what it means. That's what it means. I thank you, God, because you punished me. All these years of Yisurim, all these years of torture, Kushya Shibud, and the difficulty of the exile that we're in, and the exile in finding livelihood. And therefore, Yeshuv Abcha, therefore, God said, we say to God, return your anger and comfort us. That by means of the fact that we have suffered so much and the difficulties that the Jews have had for these last 2,000 years, by means of this, we will reveal this amazing level of Aver Anar, the source where Abraham came from, seeing godliness, seeing the truth. That's what it means. 6 days you should eat matzah. 6 days we should eat matzah. What do we say? It's baby food, right? It says 6 days should eat the matzah. You can also read 6 days. The 6 days should eat the matzah. The 6 days represent the 6 emotions of every Jew. Not, that doesn't say, that, I'm sorry, 6 emotions, right? And it doesn't say 7 days, right? What do we say? 6 days eat matzah, and the 7th day is atzeres. It doesn't say 7 days eat matzah. There's another pasuk that does say you should eat 7 days. Ki perish, what does it mean? Over here, it means it's talking about the future, that in the 7th day will be a gathering to God on the other side of the river that comes out from Eden. Therefore, there will not be any eating of chametz, because that represents the 7th day. What's the 7th day? The 7th day, the day we went across the Yam Suf, the day that the sea split and we received all these spiritual riches that were in the jewels. This day, the 7th day, this is a gathering to God. Therefore, it says don't do any work, and it doesn't say don't do work avodah, like it says in the other days. Why? Because on the 7th day in the future, it just says don't work. It means what? That this day will be, you won't need to eat. Right? Usually on the holidays it says you shouldn't do any regular work, but you can work for your food. But on this day it doesn't say you can work for your food, even though it's true, but it doesn't say it. Why? Because it's referring to the crossing of the sea, or the crossing of the river, crossing of understanding, which is going to be in the future, that then eating won't be necessary. We'll be fed from pure godliness. Okay, even though that on the first night of Pesach, with the first nights of Pesach, it says that was revealed this big awareness of God. God took us out of Egypt and etc. But this was only temporary. This jumping of Passover was unusual. Therefore, we have to have Sfirat Omer afterwards, after going out of Egypt, in order to get us used to the fact that we can receive godliness and we had to finish one full order of all the Sfirot, 7 days, and then on that day, in order to little by little drive out our egotism, and then we could receive the big revelation on the 7th day of Passover. This is a hint at this big revelation that's going to be in the future, when everything is going to split. Just like if you give a person a big gift to someone, like God gave it to us on when we took us out of Egypt, He gives them a bag. That you give your friend a bag full of money, right, at one time, and then little by little He counts it so that he can use the money. little by little. So the same thing, when God took us out of Egypt, he gave us this big blessing, but we had to count it little by little so that we could really use this godliness that we received. Until finally, on the seventh day of Passover, we were able to receive a little bit in a full way of the full revelation of godliness. We can appreciate what God did to us when he took us out of Egypt. On the seventh day, we could appreciate it even more. There was split, even understanding. We got a little bit of a blast of what Abraham felt all the time, this Avra Anar. And in the future redemption, which is going to be immediately, in 1 second, it's going to be revealed to all mankind. Everyone will see their creator. And that's why we need Moshiach now. All right, so let's now learn the Sikha that we were learning. And let's just take a 2-minute break.